Welcome back to the Jesse Rucinski show. Happy Tuesday. Hopefully your Monday wasn't, all that atrocious for you. Because Mondays tend to do that. Before we get into everything, I want to give a great shout out to the master class where they started out, commercials about teaching people how to, grow their own food, and Gordon Ramsay showing you how to do stuff and all that. And now all I keep seeing is commercials about, like things like leadership and integrity from the Clintons, and now talking about teach people about CRT, racism, white supremacy, reparations, and black love, amongst, other things. They're going to teach people, that we're all, it's the people in the commercial. I physically heard what they say and what they do preach. So good on you guys. Like, guessing, it's probably going to work just as good as, the one rowing machine bringing in Colin Kaepernick for one commercial. Might have saw it 2-3 times, like if 2 or 3 times, like total. And then they were already switched to someone else and you didn't see it again. Like, it's going to piss people off. Like, they're profiting off of teaching people critical race theory and to see everything by race and all that, which is by definition racism. So let me know how that worked out. Let me know how it goes. Someone keep tabs on it. It's gonna not be a good thing, because people actually are taking stands on a lot of things and teaching all these things, like why they need reparations, and not like how we're all racist and critical race theory and everything's based on race, which is racism in and of itself. Like, that's not going to help anything. It's going to piss a lot more people off, in my opinion, because the way I've seen trends go with other things when they've done stuff, companies do stuff like that. And well, bottom line, their bottom line is, that'll be when, they stop pushing all this divisive nonsense. But good on them. Like, they made their bed. Now we get to see how comfy it is for them to lay in. Boom. I just, don't think it's going to help anything personally. But shout out to them, because, and I barely ever saw any of their other commercials. It was like once ever, like now I see them a lot, and I don't really pay attention to TV that often. So that should tell you enough. Normally it's on, if I'm not watching wrestling or racing for the other shows, it's just on as background noise while I'm doing other things. So the dogs don't hear the person 4 houses down, close their car door and lose her mind, because she can bark. But anyways, on to the topic at hand. President Biden's speech about, gun violence and ghost guns. He packed, a bunch of stuff into the speech, and this is probably going to scare people, but there are some things in there that, that he said were like, yeah, no, duh, and we actually, I think all of us can agree on. There's stuff that it's physically impossible to agree on, and there's stuff where he tells you just look it up, look at the record all the time. When you look it up, the numbers are nowhere near add up to anything actually coming out of his mouth. If you actually look at the crime stats, which I'm pretty sure the president of the United States probably get the crime stats easier than anyone on the planet, really. Yeah, we're right there. And it's really, mesmerizing. He didn't mention a few things that I thought he should have, that in places that are seeing, like it up to the brazen point where we're having, shootings right in broad daylight in the middle of the road. Like some of these places during 2020 and that whole push over the summer got rid, like New York City got rid of their anti-gun, their gun whole entire unit, which sole purpose was to get legal guns off of the streets and to keep guns out of the hands of criminals. Like that was their sole purpose. And now we're seeing upticks in shootings and stuff. And again, places that took lots of money out of the Austin, Seattle, like all these places that took lots of money out. Minneapolis, there's another one, took a lot of money out of the funding for police. Have since been asking for millions more to get more police, because, well, turns out all of us that, can critically think of this weird thing anymore, this extinct thing called common sense. Like, what? That's going to make the problem worse because, there'll be less people to stop criminals. So how is that supposed to fix anything? And ding, 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 it didn't. It actually made things worse, I believe, is the word. Yet there's still some that are pushing for it, but once that, I mean, that certain crimes did go down when they got rid of some stuff, but also they stopped dealing with a lot of things that they find smaller and letting people get away with more, and cashless bail and all kinds of things. And there's a lot bigger problems than these ghost guns, as he was talking about, when it comes to actual just murder and mass shootings and stuff. Like, and they didn't bring that up, and they didn't really say anything about holding criminals like actually fully accountable, and to the fullest extent of the law. But he talked a lot about like going after manufacturers and stuff and being able to sue them, which like, it was more against them. And really, I mean, if we just actually had a stance on crime, like a real one, like, the problem wouldn't be continuously getting worse. And the fact that it's been going on for this long, they're just finally getting to doing this like now, is kind of terrifying. I mean, granted, look at the timing, it's perfect, but I just don't get how that, the whole time, like my opening, I was just, please, like, bring something up, mention it, because I hate to break it to him, the gun that was sitting right next to him didn't go off. Like, it takes someone actually like holding and firing the weapon for it to actually, go off. And there's millions in the country that aren't committing any crimes, but they never seem to mention the criminal. Which, if you listen to that, I mean, they mentioned ATF, rogue gun dealers, licensed gun dealers, suing gun manufacturers, all kinds of things. Didn't hear him really say that, anything about people doing the criminal acts. If you hold them more accountable, that'll stop people from, doing it when there's actual anything on. But onto his speech, say, the whole purpose, they want to keep the police safe, children safe, and keep guns out of the hands of, criminals, and that, like, that part of him. And where the hell were even 2020? Because, I'm pretty sure his vice president right now told people to stay in the streets, and they should continue to be in the streets and to keep it up. Like, while all, how many federal agents and police officers were injured, blinded, few of them were killed. All that stuff was happening in 2020, and they all pretend that it didn't happen, just like all the shootings that we saw of children, whether it's New York City, Chicago. Like, you always hear stories of little kids, doing nothing. Like, some of them just sitting in their house and getting, caught in the crossfire of idiots. And that's been happening for far, far too long. And again, it was happening a lot a few years ago and continued on. And, I'm just wondering why it took so long to finally get to this point. But I mean, look how they handled everything else. I mean, they always seem to be like, months behind when it comes to a lot of things. But the line I liked was to keep guns out of the hands of people and criminals that shouldn't have them. I mean, not to drop any names, but pretty sure his son lied on a federal background check and all that to get a firearm. So, and didn't get in any trouble for it, by the way, after he dropped it in like a trash can across the street from a school. Lots of, idiocy there, but like, let's not forget about that. And, the big thing that from that whole thing, they're the ones like out there actually physically shooting other human beings. So this whole, thing about ghost guns, like, it's not going to stop them. Like, you just have to look at the stats. Like, they're already out there shooting people with guns they shouldn't have. which have serial numbers, so they're filed off or whatnot, but like they're already doing it. So I'm trying to figure out what this is going to have. Like, do they use ghost guns? Yeah, but criminal, like if you're out there shooting someone, pretty sure most of the people doing that shouldn't have guns anyway, and they have them. It's kind of like, look at the drugs that are Schedule 1 narcotics. People still get them and die from them every day. I don't know why, because criminals and people sell them every day, which is even worse. Yeah, but criminals do criminal things regardless of what the law states because they're criminals. Yeah, I guess that's yeah. So I still don't understand every time any of them try to talk about that. Is you're like, pretty sure that if you make this illegal for all that, them having a gun and then shooting someone is already very much so illegal, but they're doing it anyway. Just throwing it out there. I do give him, I'll give him credit for this. These guns, when they do it, you can't connect the shooter to the gun because there's no serial numbers or anything. I mean, there's other things you could do. I mean, fingerprints, you can get lucky get DNA or something off of some of them, but you can't connect it, which is a problem, makes it more difficult. But there's also all those guns that are very much so real that everything gets filed off of, so they can't do it anyway. And there's all kinds of shootings that just go unresolved all the time. And well, very much so tragic. Again, it comes down to criminals doing criminal things, really. Again, but there's thousands backlogged, unsolved, homicides with guns. It's just the way it is. Serializing these, I mean, yes, we'll know who's doing it, but you think criminals aren't going to find a way to grind everything off of it like they already do to weapons and other things? Like, they're already doing it. So why wouldn't they just do it then too? And then how do you it's just such a headache. I don't understand it, but it is a tragic thing and a problem, but I don't see them making that actually solving anything because again, they already filed numbers off of serial numbers off of guns, they get VIN numbers off of cars, like they do all kinds of stuff. It doesn't help anything. ATF making it illegal to manufacturers to produce and sell kits without serial numbers, and illegal for a licensed dealer to sell them without a background check, which, I mean, whatever, universal background checks, it's already a thing in a lot of, all situations. Remember when they say you go to gun shows, you have to do background checks there. Like, believe it or not, they do them. So there's a lot of nonsense spewed in there, but I have no problem with background checks. I mean, none of us should have a problem with a background check to make sure someone should actually have it. That's just, that's basic common sense. So again, that's one of those I don't think any of us can argue with or be mad about, but it's already like happening. But I mean, common sense things coming out of them baffles my mind, but no one will disagree about background checks, whatever. Now, some of the things that might be in there, like if you need a new scope or something, you want to buy any attachment, which I heard people saying might be in there. I haven't read the whole thing. I haven't read any of it, but if you have to buy a new scope, having to do a background check again, like continuously having to do a background check like every 5 seconds, like it's really not gonna, if something like that, it's not gonna accomplish much. Then you can't have that new thing, but you still have the weapon itself. So I really don't understand how that one can work out like at all. If that's actually in there, like that's really dumb because they already have it, and it's not, and they're not bringing it. It's just stuff like that. Again, I don't. A lot of it we can agree on. A lot of it, there's some dumb stuff in there. So they're gonna get more criminals off the street. Again, like I said, there's already so many unsolved shootings and all that, because criminals doing criminal things. Like, again, they're already felons. What difference does it make to them? They're living a life of crime. Means we need to have stricter enforcement and more policing and gun units and everything to get more of the guns and them people off the streets and stop worrying about their feelings when there's innocent people getting shot, which are the actual feelings people you should be worried about, not the people doing the shooting, in my opinion. If you don't like that, too bad. But we need to worry about the victims more and put criminals and all that in jail and keep them there as long as they're supposed to be. It's just, again, common sense stuff, committing crime with a ghost gun, they'll give you federal charges and prosecution, but yeah, if they do it with a ghost gun and it's not serialized or anything, ain't gonna be able to catch them to do it anyway. And again, look at all the ones again, they file numbers off, the serial numbers, all kinds of stuff off of, which then technically can't be traced. And it's just, again, people should be getting really big, highest crime, they can get charges for doing these things, because then they wouldn't be on the streets and there'd be less of it happening, which I think we can all agree that, more, and you see all the polling, everyone wants the same amount, if not more, back in 2020, police, to keep their neighborhoods safe. And, the poorest places have, been affected the most by, crime. And, it just comes down to more police and more enforcement, holding them accountable, sentences that are actually appropriate. And the DA says this person should stay in jail. Why? Because they're, they haven't done their, full sentence and they're gonna recommit, felonies, they're gonna reoffend. And then they go out and, let's say, shoot 6 people in Sacramento. Turns out they were right. Like, actually hold these people as long as you're supposed to. All kind, like, sorry, violent criminals, they should be the ones, getting it anyway, people shooting people and stuff. That's, I've always, not liked the way any of that stuff goes. But then he says he's also going to work on 4 areas. 1, going after road gun dealers. Okay. I mean, again, okay. No one should, be against that. Disrupting illegal gun trafficking. Well, remember what he talks about, the iron pipeline and all this other stuff. Like, there's a lot of places where a lot of bad things are, coming in, and ways that they get transported and all kinds of stuff. So there's just overall more security needed, and, because, they're coming in across the border, and then, that corridor with it, like, there's all kinds of stuff where people are doing this, but we know there's guns coming across the southern border. So again, that's why people like me are yelling about border security and finishing the wall and then having more, guard outposts in those open spaces, for security, just, because that's less chance of them being able to get guns in everywhere if we actually have a real sturdy border. And how many people they're, running into every day, that's leaving giant holes for other people to get through, doing all kinds of stuff that they shouldn't. So I do agree, disrupting illegal gun trafficking is, really should be a really big key. It's just, you have to look at as a whole, like as the big picture, not just this one little thing, because how many drugs are getting caught there, everything, like, there's so much coming across there from all those people to get shipped all over the place. So I hope they actually look big picture if they actually do anything. Funding a strategy to lower gun crime. Okay. Which is, police funding towards, overtime and training and everything they need. How about you put gun units back in, like, these major cities, and, fund the police properly so they can actually take care of this stuff. Again, just look at the major cities. So many of them that defunded by, millions or billions of dollars were asking for a lot of money back because they need more cops because crime goes that way. Like, that was actually a common sense thing that mind altered, like, it's hurt my head so much when people, oh no, that we need to get rid of them. Like, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Embolden the criminals because there's less people to stop them. Not prosecuting certain crimes that are allegedly lower. What happens when they do lower ones? They get away, they escalate more. Pretty much throughout all history, you see that. But hopefully they do that, and then funding jobs for young people, summer programs, drug treatment, housing availability, criminal justice reform. More support for them, people when they get out of jail or, a treatment center. Like, I, agree with a lot of that. But in order, you have to get, the crime under control before a lot of these summer programs and everything else could even function properly and jobs and all of that. Like, you have to get crime down. Sorry, like it's just the way it is. That should be public enemy number one. I can't believe here we are, again. But I have no problem with proper support for people when they get out. Though I've known people, very close people, that needed more support when they got out of whether it was treatment centers, jail, whatever. So I'm okay with all of that, and I think all of us are. Criminal justice reform, yeah, needs to be smart, but actually put money where it's needed to actually get rid of the crime that's happening and stop being so soft on them, because that's a big part of it. Certain states, yeah, we're not even going to go after people for this stuff anymore. Like that just emboldens people to be idiots. You can just smash, what, $1,000 worth of smashing grabs. You can just grab $1,000 worth of stuff, walk out the door, no questions asked. Like there's a lot of dumb that they need to take care of before they can get places to build up in rougher neighborhoods, to get people more jobs and all that. Like you need to get rid of the crime problem before we can do any of that. You move back to assault weapons and high capacity magazines. Don't worry. Crime stats, I have them. Murder stats, shootings, I have them coming up after I'm done talking. Once I get through the speech. But yeah, those numbers say a completely different story than assault style weapons being all this big bad problem with mass shootings and all that, everything else. But get to it as I digress. Getting rid of immunity of liability from gun manufacturers so they can get sued when a criminal uses one of their firearms to do criminal things when it was a crime for them, in fact, to even have the thing, and the manufacturer doesn't deal with any of that. I mean, I'm not surprised. We also, kind of said it was going to happen during all, they're going to make it so you can go after the gun manufacturers and sue them when someone breaks the law with it. But when you think about it, I mean, the warning on tobacco products, I mean, this may give you this. So, they're covered there. Car manufacturers, and someone gets behind the wheel and drives like recklessly, above the speed limit, wrecks, kills people, like the car company doesn't get sued. They go out and get a DUI and kill people. Car company doesn't get sued, just like distilleries and breweries, unless they overserve the person physically on their premises, but they don't get sued when people drunk drive and kill people. Car manufacturers don't. Bars can if they overserve people. Like there's always that, like, because they are they're very liable then. Now you can only go after the person that did it. But yet in this situation, we're not worried about going after criminals. They talked more about being able to take away their immunity, so you could sue the gun manufacturers when they kill, when a criminal commits a crime with it. But when people commit crimes in cars and kill people, again, you can't sue the car manufacturer. Or person goes and drinks a case of beer sitting at their house and goes and drives and kills somebody, you can't sue the auto manufacturer or people that made the beer. But you want to make it so you can sue gun manufacturers, and pretty much the same thing is happening when they have nothing to do with it and people's choices. I showed you this as, Mr. I believe it or not, it might sound crazy, but I'm a supporter of the Second Amendment. Yeah, but you're trying to make it so they literally, every time something bad happens, they can then, you're going to shut them down. You're going to get rid of guns, one way or another. And this way is great because you just sue them out of business. Like, it's really all it is, because if you think about it in a common sense way, it doesn't actually make a lick of sense. Because the car didn't make the person drink and drive and kill somebody. The alcohol did, and didn't, and the gun doesn't go off unless it's in the criminal's hand doing it. But we want to go after gun manufacturers and try to tell me it's just about getting rid of their immunity so they can be held like liable because it's the only thing that's fair. Well, then you should go after everybody, because that'd be fair. But no, this is just to get rid of all their stuff, saying that they're false advertising their products. Again, do legal people do dumb things? Yes, but how many of them are criminals doing things they shouldn't have? It's just a hit job on them. And really, he literally was just attacking the gun industry altogether, try to get rid of all these things through lies and false advertising and suing them, even though the criminal's the one doing it. When you can't, like, That's literally all this was. If you saw it as anything else, sorry for you. But I mean, it's clear where it was. And we did get to meet, you get to see the guy nominated to run ATF give about a 3-minute speech before it was all over. But I mean, it really was just a hit job on the gun thing, on the whole gun industry, really. And I mean, if you said AFT instead of ATF one more time, I might say my head was going to explode and everyone just kept cheering. Yay. Like, it's well beyond obvious. The man's not there. But nominee talked about, how good of a job everyone's doing keeping the country safe, even though, like you see legit carjacking, smash and grabs, shooting, all these things going on for so long, and they're just doing it now. Like, if there's a surge, like, I mean, granted, they're doing as good as they can, but with what they've been given, like, they're not doing a good job at all, especially it's been this many months in office where it's been happening, and it took them until now to do something, which hurts my head. And as much good things as ATF does, I mean, let's not forget about all the really bad things that they've been involved with. But now on to the some stats. Just because I'm a stat guy, I like stats. Here are murder stats for 2020 by weapon type, and I might add it took until September 2021 to get the information released at all, which is just terrifying that it took them till September to be able to release it. But here we go. Murder stats. Handguns. Let's see. Because obviously they could tell what it was and all that, but 8,029 murders by handguns. Firearms type not stated, 4,863. Knives or cutting instruments, 1,739. Other weapons or weapons not stated, 893. Hands, fists, knees, and elbows, 662. Then we get to the good one here. Blunt objects, 393. And remember, we're going after he was going after assault style rifles and ghost guns. Yeah. Here we go. Rifles, 455, shotguns, 203, and other guns, 113. Granted, is there firearms not stated that have some of those numbers? Yes, but we're talking about bad thing about assault rifles and rifles and rifles and rifles. And even if you added all of the rifles, shotguns, other guns, and weapons not stated, you're not getting anywhere near just the amount of handguns that murders committed by handguns the whole time. But amazing. All I talked about was like that's the real problem, and most of those are committed by felons that shouldn't have them anyway, because they get their hands on them, because we need to actually take care of that problem, because that's the actual problem. Call me crazy, but those are the actual numbers from 2020, which don't add up to anything. And he talked about mass shootings, with all these assault style weapons. Rifles were used. This is the 2021 mass shootings numbers. Okay, there are 57 rifles used in 49 incidents. Shotguns, there were 30 of them used in 26 incidents. And then we get up to handguns. There was 146 used in 98 incidents. Getting rid of assault rifles and high capacity magazines and all that, making that super ridiculous, and getting rid of them when handguns were legit over double the amount used as rifles, and literally exactly twice as many incidents. But there he was again. We need to get rid of assault style weapon. That's all they care about. Like, what is an assault style weapon? I mean, this is an assault style weapon. Technically, I can assault you with it. Like, blunt objects were used more than shotguns and other guns combined. Murders, like, it's just none of it makes any sense. They always said, look it up. Well, I did. I already knew it, but I looked it up again. None of it adds up. None of it makes sense. And again, he's just trying to get rid of the gun industry. That's really all it is. No other thing to it. That's all it's gonna be, because they didn't again mention mentioned criminals slightly, but I even heard crazy liberal, you know, talking heads. We'll just call them all that. That were like, yeah, I really wish you would have actually, mentioned more useful stuff and not just, like what we're going to do to criminals and all this stuff to deter instead of just going after gun manufacturers pretty much the whole time. And these are people that normally don't anywhere near agree with any of us. So, at least we are all on the same page with that. I think they should get more gun units back together that were disbanded and put more of them out there and a lot more money, because their whole entire purpose was to get illegal guns and criminals with guns off the streets because they shouldn't have had them. Believe it or not, you get all that taken care of, there will be, less crime. It's just common sense. And no matter what you do, criminals are still going to get like weapons and do all kinds of stuff, just like drug dealers do. Look how bad and what schedule like all these, terrible drugs are. People still get their hands on them and they still distribute it and sell it to people. Manufacture and all kinds of things. Why? Because people like criminals will do criminal things, especially, and they don't give a damn. They don't. No one can argue with that. If you do, like there's something really wrong with you, but that's where you have to start. You have to make the streets safer, the community safer. And then the rest of it will be, able to fall in line much easier. But you can do as many after school programs as you want and try to get, more young people into jobs and stuff. But they're not going to put a business in somewhere where, there's a really bad crime problem. It's just not good for business. They're not going to, spend the money and invest in it, when no one's going to go there, like, and all that. Like, you have to get like the thing done. And sorry, everyone's experiment failed. Like we all said it was going to. You need more police and, gun units and gang units and all that on the streets to get rid of, to help, bring the crime problem back down and actually hold people accountable, and make them, need cash bail. That's not racist, but you just need bail to get out. Sorry. And all kinds of just simple stuff. And that could help, fix this. But until they do that, like, we're just going to keep hearing idiots give speeches about how we're doing it for this. But then you look at murders and mass shootings and none of, really, it proves all of our points about, shotguns and rifles and assault style weapons with air quotes around it. That's really not, the big problem. There's a crime problem, lots of handguns and all kinds of stuff. The only thing more obvious than that is his inability to like cognitively like think and read and all of that, because that was difficult to watch. And I don't understand how people don't see that. And by the way, it's ATF, not AFT. Yeah, but if we fix up all these, real obvious, like easy things, like we can start getting this in the right direction. And when there's less, violence and gang and stuff going on in the neighborhoods, then more businesses will be able to go there. And it'll be harder for gangs to get kids in there because they'll actually have opportunities. And when all this crime and everything's running wild, nothing's going to get in there, which is what just keeps people in that cycle. And, it's a rotating door of it. And again, if you want to argue that one with me, please come find me. I'll argue. It's hard to get businesses to go and help people out when all that's going on. Like, it's just common sense and, holding actual like criminals and all them accountable, no matter who they are. Go get them off the streets, and it'll solve the problem and get go after illegal guns. Need that too. But that being said, I'm going to jump off. Thank you for watching or listening, whatever you're doing. I appreciate it. Don't forget, please share it out for me onto your socials and the groups. Like, it helps get more eyes and ears on it, which would be great, to get it growing. If you're on Good Pods, thank you. I appreciate it. Also, follow along, Apple, Google Podcasts, Spotify, whatever your preferred, Stitcher, Breaker, TuneIn. Like, I'm on a lot of them. Reason, just got it on there. Like, check out and follow along all of them. And that helps, as I can keep track of it. If you're on an Audible device, except for Good Pods, I can't see that one on Anchor, but I still appreciate you watching it and sharing it out. Thank you. Follow along. Again, YouTube, Rumble, Cloud Hub, they have all the videos on there, so make sure you check those out, and it takes a few seconds to subscribe, and like the video, put a little comment and be done with it. It helps out immensely. Like to keep that growing too, just to get more conservative listeners and that thing trying to grow, especially on Rumble, but it'd be fun to piss off YouTube too. So I'm going to go, but be good to each other. Again, don't forget to follow along, share it out. It helps out immensely. I'll be back on Friday for sure. And I think, as it didn't happen last week, I think tomorrow it's actually going to work out and I'll finally get that other thing going. But I make no promises, but be looking out because it might come out tomorrow. So be good to each other. Hopefully I'll see you tomorrow. If not, I'll be back on Friday. Have a good week. Be good to each other. And like always, my friends, to peace.